Here on top of breaking news out of Greensboro today, where Interim Chief TERESA BIFFLE is about to give an update on a situation, a shooting on Circle Drive that left a North Carolina A&T State University student dead. Let's listen in.
Let's get set up and go ahead and start the spelling. TERESA, T-E-R-E-S-A. Last name BIFFLE, B-I, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, L-E. Currently serving as the Interim Chief of the Greensboro Police Department.
All right, so we're going to give Chief BIFFLE a moment to get situated here. What we know so far is that there was a shooting that happened just after 11 last night. That's when the 911 calls came in. This happened on Circle Drive near the campus, but technically off campus of North Carolina A&T State University, which is why there was an Aggie alert that went out. Initially, the report was that 6 people were injured, 4 of whom were at the hospital. And sadly, we learned later this morning that 2 people had died. And North Carolina A&T State University confirmed one of the people who died was a freshman student from Statesville named Kenesha Turner.
Greensboro Police Department.
Again, Chief BIFFLE is doing some microphone checks here at the news conference. Just wanted to make sure she had not already started, but this is an ongoing investigation. Of course, the campus is grieving. Earlier on WFMY News 2 at noon, we heard a report from our Sydney Moore, who has been at the crime scene this morning. Still an active situation. Crews are collecting evidence there. Sydney talked with neighbors who said they were about to go to this block party last night, and then they heard the sound of gunfire, saw people running. And again, sadly, we can report that one of the people killed was a student.
Okay.
Looks like Interim Chief BIFFLE is about to begin. Let's listen.
All right. On October 25th, last night, we responded at 11:29 p.m. to Circle Drive in reference to a shooting. Unfortunately, we found 2 victims there. One has been identified as a 19-year-old freshman from A&T State University, Kenesha Turner. And we also have another subject that is not yet identified, a male subject that was also found deceased at the scene. There were 4 other victims of shootings that showed up at the hospital. One of them remains in critical condition. Beyond that, right now it appears that there were multiple shots fired. We're still processing forensics at the scene to determine how many shooters were involved. The investigation is definitely early and ongoing, and we're putting all available resources to it to further the investigations and identify any suspects. There are no suspects identified at this time. As usual, we're asking the community to reach out to Guilford County Crime Stoppers, 373-1000, and give any information. There were multiple people there last night, so there has got to be someone that knows some information about what happened. There's a rather large gathering, so we should expect to get numerous phone calls from people concerned. It's a tragedy. This is, people that weren't even there for the party was a victim. I mean, this is a senseless act that what should be a celebration. And we're just asking for any help from the community to further any leads that we may get in reference to the shooting. I'll take any questions at this time. Again, keeping in mind we're very early in the investigation.
Were the other victims young people as well?
They were younger in age. I can't speak to whether they were students of the university. I'd let the university speak to any enrollment.
Chief BIFFLE, as a former A&T student, I've been to a party over there my freshman year of college, 2016. 2 students, it was a boy and a girl, I can't remember their names, but they both were shot and killed at that party, same area, 911 Circle Drive. It seems that there's always a shooting at those particular houses. Is there a way that possibly GPD could potentially, maybe patrol, be in the area during parties, just to kind of allow students to have a safe environment to have a party? I mean, I know you guys can't be everywhere all the time, but is there a way maybe you guys could collaborate with the students just to be in the area like, hey, you guys are safe, you can have fun in a safe way, and we're here to protect you guys? If my question is making sense.
It is making sense, and we are collaborating with the university, and all, it is off-campus housing, and so we are collaborating with the university on what resources they need to help proactively deter anything.
And Chief, overnight Monday into Tuesday, police had to break up a large crowd at the Province Apartments, and rocks and bottles were thrown at officers. And according to Twitter, this was also an off-campus homecoming party. Can you confirm that this was not the only off-campus party that resulted in violence?
There's a large gathering, I don't know that I totally attribute it to homecoming and all. We just responded to a rather large gathering. Our major concern was injuries occurring. We were having structural damage to one of the apartments from the overcrowdedness, and so we were trying to clear out the area to make it safe for everyone.
And I know during that as well, you mentioned, you're upping patrol. Have you already upped patrol for the homecoming week, and just are increasing that even more after?
We always provide additional resources for this week, definitely around the parade, the festivities, the concerts that occur. We are adding additional resources for the days leading up to it.
And touching on that, can you guys kind of touch on the incidents that do happen? If it's necessarily A&T students that are participating in this, or if it tends to be people from out of town or just locals in Greensboro who want to attend homecoming? Because 9 times out of 10, it's normally not the students who are engaging in like these violent crimes. It tends to be people, like I said, out of town or just locals here in Greensboro.
It is a large event that comes to the community, and it's a great celebration, and a lot of people do attend, and we can't say for sure everyone is an alumni or a student at A&T, but everyone wants to partake in the parade and watch the football game and all the festivities that it brings. But to your point, I don't think we can necessarily say everyone that comes was an alumni or a student of A&T.
Chief, what is the Greensboro Police message to folks that are coming to town this weekend for the homecoming?
Have fun, stay safe, be responsible, look out for each other. Everybody needs to have a good time, and that doesn't necessarily need to involve violence.
And Chief Biffle, you still support at your mother, you have children yourself, so how difficult do you think this time may be for her parents, realizing their daughter was out just having a great time and then having to get that phone call early in the morning?
I mean, I can't begin to imagine the feelings the family's going through, and loved ones, and those that are still in the hospital. They're sent off to college to get an education and have a fun time, and this tragedy occurs. Can't begin to imagine what they're going through, and the only thing I can do is make sure we do everything we can to bring people to justice that caused this.
To have two significant incidents kind of in back-to-back nights involving your officers the first night, and then just kind of, multiple people shot the next night. Just kind of your comments on that from the department standpoint, and just comments to the community about your thoughts.
It's we rely on the community to help us keep the community safe. So you can go back to see something, say something, utilize 911, make us aware. If you see a gathering getting out of hand and somewhere in the city, please call it in. The gathering that we had 2 nights ago, it was reported 10 people, and it ended up being well over 1,000. So please don't hesitate to call. You don't even have to give your name. Just say, I'm in this area and there's a large gathering. We would rather know about something than have to show up and use additional resources when something gets out of control.
And particularly with last night's incident, how important is that? See something, say something, if you know what's happened, to call you guys.
Yes.
As the investigation goes forward, how important is it?
Oh, very important. We would rather be in an area made aware of something before it gets out of control, because then you have tragedies like last night.
Chief, how many folks were at the party last night? Because you said there was 1,000 at the one
2
prior.
nights
Ago. How many?
I don't have initial numbers. I'll have to get that to you a little later, but I'll find out how many we estimate to be.
Was it, super large?
I'll have to find out those numbers. I don't want to begin to speculate.
And what's the gather and have a party?
You know, that you start getting into code enforcement and fire marshals, and it depends on the facility. You know, it depends on if you're inside, outside, you start getting a lot of different factors there. You know, the safest party is one that you can control and know who's at. A lot of times when you have large gatherings, they get out of hand and you don't even know who's at your own celebration party or gathering.
And touching on that a little bit, I know when I was going to college, my parents always told me, don't go to a house party. So can you guys kind of touch on if you see more instances like this at house parties, or it's just?
You know, it varies. It's always a safe rule to know who you're associating with and to know who's going to be there when you get somewhere. So that's great advice your parents gave, and I think it's advice you can use today. You know, you never know what's going to happen, so I would rather be familiar with who I'm around.
Are there any plans of any sort of changes in law enforcement strategies going forward tonight to prevent anything happening?
We'll have additional resources through the city, some response teams in case we get the calls that I hope we get, that we have gatherings occurring. And again, we just want to show up and make sure everyone's safe. We're not there to break up any gatherings. We just want to make sure everything is happening in a safe manner and we don't have tragedies like what happened last night.
Is there any indication of a motive or whether there was some kind of altercation prior to the shooting?
No, we don't have any indication. We're truly putting the investigation together.
And unfortunately, she makes the 38th homicide for the year, and the number may possibly rise with the several other people who are in,
Critical.
in the hospital. So what impact does this 38th homicide, possibly more to come, leave on the city of Greensboro?
Yeah, we're at 39. I hate to make that correction, but we are at 39 with the 2 last night. We're still trending that we're not going to surpass previous years, but it's always concerning. You know, anytime you have any homicide, it's very concerning. It speaks to the gun violence that the nation as a whole is experiencing right now. You know, we have, in addition, I mentioned Crime Stoppers, we have Gun Stoppers. We need anyone and everyone that knows of illegal gun use to call. It's going to take the community to really help us get a handle and get violent crime under control. We're doing great works with a lot of our communities, so I just ask that, again, see something, it's that simple. See something, say something, and call.
Is this something you guys have seen before, leading up into the days, coming into homecoming, just having violence of this nature?
You know, I wouldn't associate this with just leading up to homecoming. You know, we're bringing thousands of people into the city at this time of year. But unfortunately, we have other gatherings, large gatherings, that have unfortunately led to violent crime. So I wouldn't say it's specific to homecoming. We just have an abundance of people coming into the city at this time.
Would the city be considering any sort of curfew potentially to reduce any of this?
No, we're not going to consider a curfew at this time, to my knowledge. That hasn't been discussed because it is, but not to my knowledge.
Chief, how is your staffing, and do you feel like the department is staffed well enough to address some of the issues that you're seeing recently?
Yes, we're doing some overtime, but we are staffed to fully respond to anything that comes up during this week.
Anything else?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have been listening to Greensboro Police Department's Interim Chief TERESA BIFFLE talking about tragedy that unfolded on Circle Drive in Greensboro last night, a shooting that killed a North Carolina A&T State University freshman, Kenesha Turner, and one other person whom the interim chief referred to as an unidentified man. Still awaiting word on age or name. The chief did point out that at this point, they do not have a suspect. They are hoping anybody will come forward with information about who did this. She noted that this was part of an off-campus party at off-campus student housing. There were several people there. She is hopeful someone knows something that will lead them to answers in this case. We're getting word that Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughn is now up to the podium, so let's listen to what she has to say.
Yeah. Okay. Nope, that wasn't perfect. We'll try our best. Good afternoon. I'm Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughn, and I would like to echo many of the comments that Chief BIFFLE made regarding the events of the last 2 days. It is always our goal to give people a safe environment, not only for an event like homecoming, but in your daily lives. We were surprised that that festivities started early, and I want to make it an important distinction that these were not necessarily homecoming events, that these were events that other people, some of them could have been students, put together that kind of happened organically. We know how things have a tendency to spin out of control when social media is involved. But certainly the events that are associated, the sanctioned events that are associated with homecoming have not even started yet, that these were started by other individuals who quite frankly acted very irresponsibly. We know that there is an issue with gun violence, and this is not something that we will be able to police our way out of. It will require a partnership between the City of Greensboro, our police department, and our community partners. I know that what's happened the last few days has really disappointed those at North Carolina A&T State University, that they don't want their name blemished by the activities of the last 2 days. I think that is very important. A&T is a great partner in our community, and I know that they are suffering along with the rest of the city. I want to give my condolences to those who were killed yesterday and those who are injured. As mentioned earlier, you don't send your children off to college and expect to get that phone call in the middle of the night. I've got a daughter who's in college right now, and I want to know that she is safe where she is. That is the goal of your elected officials in your police department, that people are safe in our community.
I think the other thing too, it's hard. This is such an economic driver for people, right? The homecoming events, it helps businesses, it helps the city. So I guess just kind of echoing, how hard is that to see when your city gets hit with the tragedy?
It is very difficult to see, but I will say that we do large events very well. If you look at what, the Wyndham and the Folk Festival and other large events that we do, we have a good handle on how to do them when we know in advance that something is going to occur. We have spoken with A&T about their homecoming festivities, and we are prepared for those sanctioned events. One thing that I will say that A&T is very concerned about are people who are saying that they are doing an Aggie event or an A&T event when clearly they are not associated with the school, and for them it is just a money-making opportunity.
I asked the chief the same question, but I'll ask you again. Any considerations of curfews to keep anybody safe over the next coming days?
Not at this time, but certainly as the week goes on, we can review what is occurring, but no, there is no consideration at this time.
Mayor, I spoke to a student out there who said, this weekend is about celebration, and he encourages everyone to kind of look after each other, because regardless, there's going to be a lot of crowds, a lot of people in many different areas around campus. So I assume you would kind of echo that message of look after each other. And like the chief said, if you see something, say something.
Absolutely. This is a big weekend. It is homecoming. It's also Halloween weekend. So there are things that are planned that are unrelated to North Carolina A&T. And yes, if you see something, say something. And as the chief mentioned, you could reach out to Crime Stoppers 373-1000. You can do so confidentially, but we are not going to solve what's happened the last couple of days without assistance from the general public. As the chief said, we know that that the events of the last 2 nights were very well attended. People saw what happened. They know what happened. We need their support and help.
We've talked a lot about just gun violence in the city over the last year. Just kind of your reaction to seeing the event of last night?
It was very disappointing because something like this doesn't usually occur in the run-up to an event. Our numbers really across the board were trending down when you compared our statistics to last year and then last year to the year before. And what's happened the last 2 days have been a real setback to that. But I will say that our police department has been doing an outstanding job under very difficult circumstances. And again, relationships that we have developed with our community partners over the year has certainly helped as well. You know, we know that there have been tough events, and this is when the community comes together. And so I hope that we will continue to see that type of response.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we just heard from Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughn speaking not only as an elected official, but also as a mother, as she offered her condolences to the 2 people killed in the shooting at an off-campus party near North Carolina A&T State University's campus last night. Both the mayor and interim chief TERESA BIFFLE echoed a point that I think is important to reemphasize, that neither this party nor the one from Monday night that got a lot of attention, there were police cars damaged, pepper spray used, neither of those events was a sanctioned homecoming event for North Carolina A&T State University. Both of them mentioned the esteem this university has here in our community and acknowledged that these incidents were examples of people who were taking advantage of the fact that this is supposed to be a celebratory time and made some bad choices. So just to be clear about that. Again, a point of note is that Greensboro Police are still looking for suspects in this case. At this point, they have not identified anyone who did this. So if you know anything, if you or someone you know was at either of the parties from the last couple of nights, please call Greensboro Police. Police also want you to report large gatherings, not so that they can necessarily break them up, but so they can put eyes on these gatherings heading into homecoming weekend and make sure everyone is safe to avoid tragedies like the one we saw last night. If you are just now tuning in, you can watch this replay live on our WFMY News 2 YouTube channel, and we'll have much more in our evening newscasts.